The diesel education of America continues. And this is BMW's latest lecture. Let's drive the 2015 BMW 740 LD, the most prestigious US BMW to yet get a diesel. And check the tech.
Now, first off, all 7 diesels are long wheelbase and all-wheel drive. It's the only way they come. I'm big on the long wheelbase part because, to my mind, all 7s ought to be. I don't get buying a car of this size and cost, and then you take out some guests for dinner or something, and they're in the back going, it's kind of tight in here. You got to move your seat up. It defeats the purpose of this. Now, the heart of the matter on any car that has a D at the end of its BMW badge is the D. Here it is. This is your 3-liter inline-6 turbo diesel, moving a nearly 4,700-pound car. This is relatively petite displacement for that job, but because it's a diesel, the torque's there to get it done. 255 horsepower, but 413 pound-feet of torque. That's the magic number. 0 to 60, despite all this weight, is just a little over 6 seconds. Your MPG is 23:31. As I mentioned, all these diesel 7s are going to be all-wheel drive, and they all go through an 8-speed, conventional but very refined automatic. Now, this says twin power turbo. That is not the same as a twin turbo. Typically, you wouldn't do that on an inline. This is a twin geometry turbo. Actually, it can have multiple geometries because it can change the way the vanes inside it operate, so it works better at lower or higher RPM. Notice that red line on the tach is not typically diesel low. This guy can run high RPM or grunt down low. Now, inside, there's not a whole lot changed here from a slew of other BMWs we've reviewed, so I'm not going to spend too much time in here. Let me call out some highlights, though. The instrument panel on this car is now all LCD, including those 2 ancillary gauges on the far ends, although they mimic a traditional dial gauge, as do the 2 in the middle. But notice an interesting trick. The needles visually pass behind the numerals. We know the iDrive system, and of course the 7 puts it on a nice big screen with the big controller. The current generation has a handwriting touchpad on the top. Now, you know I gripe a lot about BMW nickel and diming you on the a la carte option sheet for so many things that cheaper cars include standard, but they're getting away from that a bit. 7 Series now has BMW Online and BMW Apps standard. High-end Bluetooth kit and USB jack for audio are now standard. Now, the driving controls are familiar. Paddles on the wheel, this spatula-shaped shifter here, and then, of course, your drive mode controls. What might surprise you in a 7 with a smallish diesel is that you've got not only an eco mode, 2 comfort modes, and 2 sport modes, including a Sport Plus. You can see it changes up the instrument panel rather markedly, something the old dial gauge car couldn't do.
Now, the first thing you notice about 740D is it's got a certain note or a tone to it, different than the gas engine cars that are smoother and less intrusive. Right there. Sporty, actually. I don't think anybody can object, but it is a different sound than the gas engine vehicle. Now, the real fun comes when you get into the Sport Plus. You also see that it indicates that stability control is off. I assume that means it's mostly off? Why in God's name would you want to have no stability control on a giant luxury sedan? You're never taking this thing to the track, and if you are, you need a new hobby or another one. But I gotta tell you, this car gets around a corner and uses that torque nicely. The nice thing about a diesel with a turbo is you don't have the same turbo lag as a gas engine because you've got diesel grunt at the bottom to get you going, even before the turbo spools up. I guess you can tell, this is probably my favorite 7 Series. There is nothing wimpy or down-market feeling about it, even though it's got a smallish inline-6. That's a good sounding car. And by the way, what's not hurting its handling is a near perfect 50-50 weight distribution. I was surprised to see that.
Okay, a 740 LD is about 83.5 base. I'm not going into detail CNET style because we're really focusing on its dieselness, but let it suffice to say you can spend 12, even 15,000 more pretty easily getting it done our way. Now, the real story here are the numbers around the diesel. The diesel engine in this car adds 1,500 above a comparable gas engine 740. It also adds 4 miles per gallon more efficiency average. Looking at today's price of U.S. diesel fuel versus U.S. premium per gallon, you're not saving a ton of money per year at the 15,000 miles average. Your payoff on this car's diesel engine would be like 17 years. So it doesn't make total sense financially to pick up one of these diesels. However, if you appreciate its everyday luscious diesel torque as I do, especially in this kind of a car, That's a small premium to pay on a car this expensive. Secondly, this is a good hedge against the expected and perhaps pronounced spike in those U.S. fuel prices. I'm comparing diesel now against almost historic lows on gas at the pump. That may not stay that way, and this car and its owners may end up having the last laugh.